received this email recently. You tell me, what would you say? My husband and I planted a church in, name withheld, several years ago. I've been leading a mom's Bible study using your book, The Disciple-Making Parent. 2 days ago, I caught my almost 15-year-old son looking at inappropriate pictures on the internet. We are purchasing software for our devices, etc., but I was wondering if you have any resources that you would recommend for the discipleship process that we now need to embark on to help my son and hopefully overcome this temptation. I appreciate any help and resources you could suggest. Thank you, Emily. My response to Emily was this: thank you for reaching out to me. I wish that I could be on site and help out. The best that I can do is actually ask you some questions and make some generalizations based on my interacting with other families. Questions about the health and nature of your family. How strong is your marriage? How involved is your husband? What number is your son? How stressful has the church plant been? What's the state of your son's heart? Is it repentant or hard? Does he claim to be a Christian? Do you think he really is a Christian? Answers to all those questions would affect how I approach this situation, but I want to give you some answers making some assumptions. With teens and really with all children, I recommend a strategy that involves two parts: the heart and behavior, words and actions. And in this case, your husband should take the lead. Moms tend to be horrified by the thought that their child would even consider porn. Men who know what goes on in our hearts understands that this is a constant temptation. If I was pastoring today, I would expect that over 50% or 80% or 95% of my guys would be struggling with this. I think it's important that you see this as a gospel moment, that God in His grace has allowed your son to get caught and to get help. Don't see this as a, how in the world could my son do this to me? We've raised him right. So thinking about behavior, yes, in this day and age, we do need blocking software. And you need to ask, do other electronics need to be taken away? But even as you do this, don't think that it will solve the heart problem. It just helps with the impulsive sin temptation. Let's think a little bit about the heart. I'd expect that your husband would take the lead here, and this should serve as a wake-up call for him. In addition, it's a training moment to understand what guys who come into his church are fighting. I'd encourage him to take your son out for breakfast and start many conversations that would include speaking to the heart. And here are some things I would say. Number one, I love you. God loves you. It's His grace that caused you to get caught. Number two, God's view of sexuality is good. But it's so powerful that it's surrounded by covenant. And it's been distorted in every age, and that's what you've seen. Here's a good place to ask, have you talked to him about the actual mechanics of sexuality? And if not, I think this is a shortcoming that you can apologize for. Number three, men especially are tempted to pervert this gift. But Jesus tells us to get rid of anything that prompts temptation, Matthew 5:29-30. So that's why we're going to set up the software. Number four, another thing to say, we're going to fight this battle together. This is every man's battle, and I'm going to ask you accountability questions in the days ahead. This will draw us together. Just as an aside, make sure you have an atmosphere where it's safe to confess sin. And so ask yourself, is your home one where members of the house can regularly confess sin to each other? Number five, you might want to ask him, tell me about this temptation. How long's it been going on? Etc. Number six, this is a chance for you to do some self-examination as a Christian. This is a chance to ask if you actually do have a new heart. Seventh strategy might be the idea depends on your judgment of the situation. You might have him confess it to another man or elder in the church and ask for prayer. Or you might tell him that if this happens again, that you're going to have him do that. Number 8, don't ever forget about the flesh. That's what the chapter on the flesh and the spirit is about in the disciple-making parent. So I would assume that he's going to be tempted like this for the rest of his life. And this would be an area for you and your husband to pray about and him to keep an ongoing conversation about. And last, number 9, tell him that you too will be praying about this because you're on his side. You're going to be praying that any future sin comes out, not to catch him, but to help him fight this temptation. Now, you asked about resources. Some resources I recommend are Waging War on Lust. This is I've written a Bible study here that he and your son can do together. So it's available on Kindle or paperback. It actually gets you into the Bible. In addition, you can look at Finally Free. I read and went through this book with a young man in his 20s. It's a longer book, but you might take a look at that. Another one that's just come out now is The Porn Problem. It's short and readable. And while it may not be a book the two of you will go to do together, it would give your husband some talking points. It's from the Talking Points series. And last, The Purity Principle, which is another short book that you could read through together. Emily, although you probably feel mortified, know this, that the Lord delights to rescue in these moments. And that sin is something on the inside, not on the outside. It's something on the inside that we have to fight. And so God in his grace has allowed this to come out to cause you, your husband, and your son to go deeper in the area of holiness.